The Eighth Amendment was really, I don't want to get too into the weeds here, was really written to protect people from excessive punishments for crimes. But what Trump's argument is here is that he didn't commit any crime and he didn't perpetrate any wrong and nobody lost any money. And the people taking it's now $400 million, goes up $97,000 a week with interest. The people taking the money from him, the state of New York, suffered no harm whatsoever because of this alleged overinflating of assets. Assets, of course, there's no precise amount, it's within a range. And when the bank's lawyers got, and the bank's executives got on the witness stand, they said, guess what? We sent our own appraisers to evaluate his real estate. His evaluations were they weren't the same as ours, but they were within the same range as ours. And then this guy from Deutsche Bank says, he was such a good customer, and he turns and looks at the former president right in the eye and says, if you ever want to do this again after you leave the White House, come back to us, we'll be happy to lend the money to you. So his argument is, you can't punish me if I did no wrong, committed no crime, and caused no harm.
And the punishment now, nearly $400 million, as you just said. How common is it for the judge to do what he did?
So Donald Trump basically said, can you give me 30 or 60 or 90 days? That's a lot of money for anybody to have to come up with. And the judge had a one-word answer, no. I've never heard of that. Almost every judge in the country would give the judgment debtor, the defendant who lost and who owes money, the time to amass the money. But this judge said no. Today, he will sign the judgment. Today is the first day of 30 days that Donald Trump has in which to file his appeal. It also begins the time during which the state can begin preparing to execute its judgment, to seize $400 million worth of assets from him. How can he prevent that seizure? By depositing $400 million in the court's bank account, or by getting a bond, an insurance policy naming the court as the beneficiary, for which he'd have to pledge, you ready for this?
I'm ready.
$1 billion in unsecured real estate as security for that bond. And he'd have to pay premiums on the bond. This is a profoundly expensive and economically catastrophic judgment.
Very expensive. So I want to pivot a little to Fani Willis. You love talking about Fani. So
who doesn't? There she is.
There she is, and there's Nathan Wade. So the judge in that case expected to decide as early as Monday as to whether or not Willis and Wade can stay on this case in prosecuting the former president. How do you see this playing out?
I think he's going to remove Ms. Willis and Mr. Wade from the case because I don't think they were candid to him about their relationship. Lawyers do not come into a courtroom expecting to have to tell the judge about their personal relationships, least of all the prosecutors. But her poor judgment got her into this position. Best thing she can do, I'm going to look right in the camera, withdraw yourself from the case. That's the best thing she can do. Does this affect the prosecution against the former president and others? I don't think so. She has another team ready to move in, ready to go. They're ready to try the case in October at the height of the presidential campaign.
So this judge, we talked about him last week. You said he's only, 8 months in, 10 months in to being a judge. So this is new ground for him. But is this political also for him? Do you think he rules based on the fact that he is running for re-election?
I hope not. You know, we all thought that in the O.J. case, now I'm going back into history, that Lance Ito ruled based upon his own re-election. I don't mean to be critical of Judge Ito at this late stage, but there were a lot of rulings that, you know, there's ample way for them to have gone the other way. It's a defect in the system, in my view, when judges and prosecutors are elected. Judges should be appointed for life terms, as I was, so they don't care about the popular perception of the rulings. The judicial branch is not supposed to be popular. It's supposed to do the right thing under the Constitution, the laws, and the facts as they're presented. I don't know this judge. I don't want to criticize him, but I hope and expect he will do the right thing and not concern himself for his political career.
You know, we watched him and his mannerisms during that testimony, that very long, 7-hour testimony between Wade and Willis.
Some of which was tough to watch.
It was very tough to watch. You as a judge, and watching him and some of the things that he did, his mannerisms, just the way he was on the bench. What do you make of it?
I think he was uncomfortable hearing testimony about personal, intimate relationships, and I think he was uncomfortable being on television.